A trumpet scream cuts through the blizzard, not brass, but living. Somewhere ahead, an elephant is panicking. The animal rears against a cliff face, its mahout sawing at the rope bridle. But the beast smells nothing except falling. To its left, 1,000-foot drop into whiteness. To its right, a wall of ice-slick granite. Behind it, 400 men cursing in Punic, Numidian and Iberian, their sandals wrapped in rags, their shields turned into windbreaks. No one sleeps tonight. No one has slept for 3 days. This is not a battlefield. It is a vertical trap. Late autumn, 218 BCE. The Second Punic War is barely 6 months old. Carthage's young general, Hannibal Barca, has already done the unthinkable. Marched his army from Spain, crossed the Rhone River before Rome's legions could stop him, and now stands at the roof of the known world, the Alps. Rome's strategy, built on centuries of military logic, assumed no army could drag war elephants over those peaks. The mountains were the defense, so the Senate in Rome sat behind their walls, debating where Hannibal might emerge next. The answer never crossed their imagination. But Hannibal does not think like a Roman. He thinks like a man who swore hatred to Rome at 9 years old, his hand on a bloodied altar. He thinks like a hunter who knows that the only impossible path is the one no enemy guards. So he gives the order, forward. The action is suicide dressed as strategy. His army, roughly 40,000 infantry, 8,000 cavalry, and 37 war elephants, funnels into a narrow track that local Gauls refuse to use even in summer. Snow already covers the upper passes. Guides warn of tribes who roll boulders onto climbers. Hannibal listens, nods, and points uphill. The immediate consequence comes within hours. A section of the trail, weakened by early frost, collapses under a supply wagon. The wagon falls, chains snapping, dragging 3 mules and 12 men into the void. Their screams echo for a full 8 seconds before silence. The column halts. Soldiers look at each other, not with fear yet, but with the cold calculation of men who realize the map is a lie. Behind them, the elephants grow agitated, their trumpeting bouncing off the cliffs like war horns. Then comes the complication. From a ridge 200 feet above, a shower of stones. Not an avalanche, ambush. Mountain Ligurians, unseen, wrapped in furs, hurl down boulders and javelins. A Carthaginian officer takes a rock to the helmet. His head snaps back, and he falls without a sound. Men scramble for shields. The elephants, already terrified, begin to mill. One young bull, struck by a spear, turns and charges back down the column, trampling a supply tent and sending a dozen laborers diving off the trail into snowbanks. Hannibal watches from the center. He does not shout. He raises his hand, palm forward, the signal for shield wall advance. His veterans know the gesture. They lock shields, form a tortoise, and begin pushing uphill through the falling rocks. But the pass is still 3 days away, and the snow is getting deeper. The second night, the cold learns their names. Men who marched from Carthage in summer sandals now wake to find their toes black. Frostbite claims the first dozen before dawn. Not heroes in battle, but quietly in their sleep, curled against pack animals for warmth. The army doctor, a Greek named only in fragments of sources, saws through bone with a blade heated in a cooking fire. The sound carries. Soldiers look away. Hannibal has made a decision that historians still debate. He refuses to turn back. Some sources suggest his officers begged him to retreat after the first ambush. The record is unclear on who spoke, but the outcome is not. He gathers the army at a frozen stream, climbs onto a rock, and points south, toward Italy, toward Rome, toward everything they crossed the world to burn. He does not promise warmth. He promises revenge. But promises do not feed men, and the Alps are not finished. The immediate consequence of pushing forward is a second, more devastating ambush. This time, the mountain tribes, now fully alerted, wait at a narrow defile called only the Burning Rock in fragmentary accounts. They have felled trees across the path and stacked them into a makeshift palisade. When the Carthaginian vanguard approaches, the tribesmen light the wood. Flames leap 20 feet. Behind the fire, archers. Behind the archers, a second palisade. Hannibal's scouts report the trap. The column stops. Exhaustion becomes panic. A cavalry officer, his horse lame, screams that they are going to die in this white hell. A soldier throws down his spear. 2 more follow. For a terrible moment, the army teeters on the edge of dissolution, not defeat, but disintegration. Then Hannibal does something unexpected. He orders a detour, not back but up, over the ridge, through unmarked snow, around the flames. It means leaving the wagons behind, all of them, food, spare weapons, the medical supplies. The elephants must be led one by one across a crumbling ice bridge. One elephant, a seasoned beast from Hannibal's own train, slips. Its mahout leaps free. The animal falls for what feels like a minute. The crash comes from below, then silence. The complication now is not the enemy, it is time. The army has been in the mountains for 7 days. Rations are down to hardtack and whatever frozen meat they can cut from dead mules. Men eat leather straps boiled in snow water. The elephants begin to starve, massive, bodies requiring hundreds of pounds of vegetation, finding nothing but lichen and frozen moss. Hannibal knows that every hour costs him soldiers he cannot replace. But below the snow line he hears something. Thunder? No, it is too rhythmic, too steady. The sound of a river, and rivers lead down. They stumble out of the high pass on the 9th morning. And the river is not salvation, it is a second enemy. The Rhone's headwaters crash down through a gorge, so narrow that the spray freezes mid-air, coating rocks in a shell of clear death. Hannibal's scouts report a single possible crossing, a gravel bar half submerged, barely wide enough for 2 men abreast, with a drop on either side into water moving fast enough to pulp a body against the stones. The army looks at the crossing, then they look at the elephants. One of the beasts, a bull named only in Numidian oral tradition as "he who remembers," refuses to move. His mahout beats him. The elephant sits down. Soldiers laugh, the first laughter in days, hollow and cracked. Hannibal does not laugh. He walks to the elephant, stands before its massive head, and waits. After a long minute, the animal rises. Some say it was respect, others say it was simple exhaustion. Either way, the crossing begins. The action is a brutal calculation. Hannibal orders the weakest soldiers, the frostbitten, the fevered, the starving, to cross first. If the gravel bar collapses, they will be the sacrifice. His veterans watch from the bank. They understand. This is not cruelty. This is mathematics. The immediate consequence is worse than anyone feared. Halfway across, a section of the bar gives way. 12 men vanish instantly, swallowed by the white water. Their screams last less than 2 seconds. Behind them, the column freezes. A young Iberian standard-bearer drops his banner into the river. It spins once, then disappears. Without the standard, his unit has no rally point. They begin to drift backward, pushing against the men behind them. Panic ripples through the army like a spark through dry grass. Shouts in half a dozen languages. A mule kicks its handler and bolts, knocking 3 soldiers into the torrent. The elephants, still on the near bank, begin to trumpet, a sound that bounces off the gorge. Walls until it becomes a single, deafening shriek of chaos. Then a new complication, movement on the far ridge. Not tribesmen, worse. A Roman allied scout cavalry patrol, Gauls loyal to Rome. Perhaps a dozen men, watching from a safe distance. They do not attack. They do not need to. One of them wheels his horse and rides hard toward the Po Valley, toward the Roman legions. Hannibal sees them go. He knows what that rider carries. They are here. They crossed. Send everyone. The general has maybe 2 hours before the alarm spreads. He cannot wait for a safe crossing. He cannot build a bridge. He cannot negotiate. He does the only thing left. He draws his sword, walks into the freezing water up to his waist, and shouts one word in Punic: follow. His veterans follow. The elephants, sensing the mass movement, follow. And the gravel bar, by some impossible luck, holds. But when they reach the far side, Hannibal looks back. Of the 37 elephants that left Spain, he counts 26. The rest lie at the bottom, of gorges or in the Rhone's current. And Rome now knows exactly where he is. The descent from the Alps takes 4 more days. By the time Hannibal's army staggers into the flatlands of the Po Valley, they are no longer an army. They are a ghost. Modern estimates vary wildly, but ancient sources agree on one thing. Of the roughly 40,000 men who entered the mountains, fewer than 26,000 emerge. The cavalry has been cut by more than half. The elephants, the terror weapon that was supposed to break. Roman lines number barely 2 dozen, many of them sick, starving, or frostbitten. Soldiers wear animal hides torn from dead pack mules. Their shields are dented from rockfalls. Their spears have been used as walking sticks. And yet, when the first Roman patrol, a cavalry unit from the allied town of Torasia, spots the Carthaginians, they do not charge. They stare. These are not soldiers. These are creatures from a nightmare, painted in mud and blood, emerging from the mountains that were supposed to be impassable. The Roman commander hesitates for 3 full seconds. In war, 3 seconds is a lifetime. Hannibal does not hesitate. He orders a charge, not because his men are ready, but because they must appear ready. The Romans break. They flee back to Torasia, shouting warnings that sound insane. The elephants are here. The ghosts are here. Hannibal is here. The action that changes everything is not a battle. It is a crossing. Rome's entire defensive strategy, fortify the passes, wait for winter, blocked the coastal routes, collapses. In a single morning, because no one ever planned for an army to come over the snow. The Senate convenes in emergency session. Senators who laughed at the idea of Carthaginian elephants in Italy now sit in stunned silence. One consul, Publius Cornelius Scipio, rushes north with whatever troops he can gather. But he is too late. Hannibal has already slipped past him. The immediate consequence is psychological collapse across the Roman heartland. Allied tribes, Gauls who resented, roam for decades, see the Carthaginian banners and make a choice. They defect. Entire villages pour out to offer food, weapons, and warriors. Hannibal's army, starving an hour ago, now feasts on grain and wine. His ranks swell with Italian Gauls who know the terrain, the roads, the weak points in Rome's defenses. The complication is the one thing Hannibal cannot solve. Time is no longer on his side. Rome will not surrender. Rome will raise more legions. Rome will learn. And every day that passes, his elephants grow thinner, his mercenaries grow restless, and the political factions in Carthage grow impatient. But that is tomorrow. Tonight, Hannibal stands on Italian soil. He looks south toward the Tiber River. Somewhere beyond the hills, 300 miles away, the lights of Rome flicker in the autumn dark. They do not know it yet, but those lights are already beginning to dim. The Second Punic War has just entered its most dangerous hour, and the man who crossed the impossible has only just begun.